Holding an event can be quite overwhelming, but with careful planning and organization, it can be one of the most successful ways to promote your club and your mission. This all begins by setting event goals. Our Setting Event Goals training is part of a series on event planning. In this session, we will walk through why goals are important, learn how to identify your goals, discover ways to measure those goals, and better understand the role that goals play in your club's overall strategy. So why do we need goals? It's actually something that many planners aren't even good at. Well, before you can even begin to plan your event, you must have an understanding of its purpose. The most common way a club can achieve this is by setting precise goals. We also set goals to keep our team motivated. It helps to know that they are working towards something that is realistic and achievable. Goals also help us understand if our efforts have been successful. It's the only way we can justify the huge undertaking of our event planning efforts. Now that we have this basic foundation in place, we can begin to identify goals for our next club event. Keep in mind, goal setting is basically the process of defining your purpose. What are you trying to achieve here? Whatever your intention, Social Tables recommends that you consider the following questions. Why have the event? Why invite attendees? What should attendees walk away with? And how will you measure success? Keep in mind, answers to these questions should be part of your club's overarching strategic plan. This ensures that your goals speak to your mission and brand. The questions should also address any overall performance goals you have in place. When it comes time to actually set the goals, many planning teams follow the well-known SMART method. This system focuses on choosing targets that are clear and appropriate. First, goals should be specific, meaning they are as clear-cut as possible. They must also be measurable. Make sure you will know when you're successful. Event technology solution provider Eventbrite recommends avoiding goals that have binary outcomes, such as yes, no, or success, fail, and focusing on those that allow a range of possibilities. We need the goals to be achievable. You don't want to overcomplicate things. While far-fetched targets can be great for motivation, setting unrealistic goals can actually have the opposite effect. Goals must be relevant. Focus on what you're trying to achieve and nothing else. And finally, make sure they are time-bound. Deadlines are important to keeping your team inspired, but you don't want to go too far into the future unless necessary. Let's look at an example from Eventbrite. We'll start with a very basic goal. I want my event to be more successful. So how do we make it smart? Consider the following evolution, where each step brings you closer to a realistic and focused goal. Make it specific. I want my event to generate more revenue than last year. And then measurable. I want my event to generate 100% more revenue than last year. And now achievable. I want my event to generate 30% more revenue than last year. Relevant. I want my event to generate 30% more revenue from ticket sales. And finally, we make it time-bound. I want my event to generate 30% more revenue from ticket sales in the next 6 months. Determining how you will measure your goal's progress can be a difficult decision. After all, coming up with a metric for success isn't something that many of us do often. That's why we recommend thinking about common event industry key performance indicators, or KPIs. First, we have the Net Performer or Net Promoter Score. This will look at the likeliness of your targeted stakeholder, be it the attendee or sponsor, to recommend your organization and/or event. Next is satisfaction measures. You'll want to consider an array of audiences here: attendees, speakers, presenters, volunteers, sponsors, advertisers, and so on. Take a look at your gross revenue and/or profit. Have you met your financial targets, whether it be before or after expenditures are taken into account? Registration numbers are also a great measure to consider. If attendee count matters to your club, this is where you'll want to look. And finally, don't forget your qualified leads. This may come in the form of potential members, donors, sponsors, community partners, and more. Once you have your goals in place, it's time to think about your objectives. Objectives are the strategies and steps that help you meet your goals. Group management solutions provider Social Tables suggests that this be done through both the perspective of the planner and the attendee. These are, in fact, the two major audiences that have the biggest impact on how you will reach your intended aspirations. Objectives for Sertoma clubs are most likely to focus around two types of measures: educational and social. With educational objectives, we consider what types of speakers, programs, and content we need to put into place to reach our audience. Keep in mind, this can be as broad as community education or as specific as learning provided through your club's monthly meetings. Our social objectives are all about connection. These are the networking and interaction moments that may be either the sole focus of your event or just a small part of a much larger one. Goal setting is just the first step in planning an event. You can find additional guidance on this topic in our Sertoma Event Planning Guide, available for download in the Sertoma Member Center. You'll also want to check out the rest of the trainings in this series at members.sertoma.org. Have questions for other leaders, members, or staff? Make sure to connect with us in our members-only Facebook group using the link on your screen.